What's going on, guys? This is the Founder Hour podcast. I'm your co-host, Pat.
This is Posh sipping on espresso.
And we're hanging out with Robert Keith, co-founder of Hoorsenbuhs.
Yeah, Hoorsenbuhs.
Hoorsenbuhs.
Yeah, with or without the S. It's all
Without
good.
the S.
Yeah.
We literally talked about this like 2 seconds ago, and I already butchered it.
So say it again.
Hoorsenbuh.
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 Yeah. Or Hoorsenbuhs.
Hoorsenbuhs. Or Hoorsenbuh or Hoorsenbuhs. You got that, guys? Robert, thanks for being on the show, man.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. So we usually like to kick things off like starting with like, you know, the beginning, like kind of, you know, where you're born, what you were kind of like as a kid. But right before we did this, you showed me something, which I really want to just talk about right now. And then we'll get back to it.
Yeah.
Which was a check that you received
Yeah.
from Mr. and Mrs. Obama.
Yeah.
How did that whole thing
That was crazy.
come about?
That was crazy. I think way back in the day, let's say when they were maybe like first or second year in, we got a call from a store out in Chicago. I guess that probably Michelle frequented, and the lady had hit us up and said, "Hey, can you send out some stuff? And I want to show my client." And then, "Oh, cool. Who's your client?" She kind of, "Oh, well, anyway, it's not important." Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, "Well, okay. Now I'm really intrigued. It sounds fancy.
Yeah.
Who is this?" Well, it's for Mrs. Obama. And then I said, "Wow, okay, cool. Yeah, of course you can show her whatever you want. Like, that's awesome." And so we sent it out. And I think they brought it because when they're in office, you can't. Spending money is kind of like a no-no, right? You don't want to, I don't think they want to ball out, right? When they're supposed
you
to
see
be making like a buck
Obama
50 a
like
year.
rocking like a ring or something.
And so I don't know what happened, but we didn't really hear much about it and this and that. And then over time, we're like, wait, where's all that stuff that we put on memo? And I think it came back. Maybe a couple pieces weren't there or whatever, but it was like, it's like it was for Michelle Obama. Anyway.
Where would she wear it? Where would she wear it? Like, would she wear it at
like maybe to some kind of event or something, but, not making a big deal out of it. Like, I'm wearing like expensive this or that. Maybe, it's just they were putting together outfits for her and, keeping it low key how much stuff was. And they were just probably looking for cool stuff, and, jewelry's funny, right? Unless somebody says, that those earrings are, $4 million, nobody really knows.
It's like art.
Yeah, you don't know unless you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, then now, years later, they're out of office, and we
rocking the jewelry,
and we get an email.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm calling from I'm the assistant and looking for some stuff, and we were like, wow, cool. And then we sent out some jewelry, like a bunch of different pieces, and obviously checked and that they were who they say they were.
Yeah.
Asking for this. And then they returned some other stuff. And then so my general manager, salesperson, Tatiana, reached out and I said, "Hey, whatever happened with that this time?" And she said, "Oh, they're keeping a couple pieces." And I said, "Wonderful. A couple
Are
of
they paying us?
couple of chains."
Yeah.
And then I said, "Oh, cool. So they're going to take them, right? Great." And then we obviously offered a nice VIP discount because we appreciate that.
That presidential discount.
That presidential
available to
discount.
Only like 4 in the world right now.
Yeah. And then and then that's the last I heard of it. And then one day I checked the mailbox and I see this check in the mail, and it says M and B or B and M Obama on the little window.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy shit.
There's no way.
This is fucking tight. I'm like, wow.
That's crazy.
And I don't know, it's like I've received some pretty cool checks and interacted with some amazing people, but that one kind of felt like the strange, I don't know why, but I know I made the joke instantly, like, I changed my family's DNA.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's that DNA changing moment. Like
whatever I started, Obama just put a stamp of approval on it and bought it.
just
So
when
it's
you
pretty
deal with
dope.
like any, presidential vibes, I think it's
Yeah.
because like you put it into
Presidential
perspective.
vibes, I like that.
Right. You put it
like
into,
it. I like it.
yeah, you put it into perspective. Right. And, I was talking to my dad and, he's puffing his trees, yeah, man, Robbie, that's so cool. And I was like, yeah, it's cool, right, Dad? He's like, yeah, you don't seem over the moon about it. And I said, well, I am. I said, I am. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And he goes, no, I'm just saying, if you're down in LA where, everything, nothing's good enough. And it's like, next. Everything's just like, over, sensationalized and everything's just like, okay, whatever, what's next, that kind of vibe. So, he was like, if this was in a small town of any kind,
Yeah.
and anybody knew that you sold jewelry to,
You wouldn't be able to like go
royalty
home
or whatever,
yourself.
you
would
have been a local hero.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's a cool way to look at it, Pop.
Yeah. Is there anyone like besides Obama that I guess if they were to buy from you that maybe they haven't already, where you would be like jumping around and going crazy, like, or is that just not your vibe?
No, the way that this business has worked out, it's been like a slow, organic, one amazing, sensational thing after the next, and it's all come. You kind of you get prepped for it. I got prepped early with some stuff, just by being in Los Angeles as well. You kind of get a little desensitized, and
for sure.
I was in the entertainment business. I was a photographer, stylist, this and that. And so I've been around a lot of that kind of
Movers and shakers
stuff. Yeah. And
so you
and
kind of,
so I kind of like, I was kind of,
the starstruckness is just kind of thrown out the
like,
window at some point.
Yeah. I was kind of, I was blown away when that guy knocked on the door. That was pretty amazing. Damien Hirst. And that, when I started working with him, I was blown away also by when the people from Barney's hit me up before.
Say you sexy bastard. Did he write that? You sexy bastard?
Yeah.
It's basically 5 skateboards.
Supreme boards, yeah.
Supreme?
Yeah, 5 Supreme decks.
And it says, for Robert, you sexy bastard.
Trust no one.
Trust no one. That's amazing.
And of course, that's my seat during conference calls.
So everyone sees it.
So everybody sees trust no one behind my head.
Amazing. So let's take it back a little bit to kind of the early days of Robert. Like, what were you like as a kid? What were you into? What'd you stay busy with?
I was definitely a skate rat. That was kind of like I think the first thing I was into as a movement or as a genre or whatever you want to call it was
like something you identified yourself
with.
Like you grew up in LA?
I grew up in Northern California.
Okay.
So I come from my mom and dad are still cool with each other, but at the time, they were into different things. Mm-hmm. Dad wanted to be a rock star, be a little bit more psychedelic, and my mom wanted a little bit more Norman Rockwell house vibe, and so there was like, are you not wanting to do this thing over here? You want to play music and tag chicks or what? Like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And there's that. No, you know what this is? This is I let him. He's an old man. This man right here.
We're sitting next to a window.
We're sitting in a conference room, and there's like this window, security window. So you can see the shadow of the guy walking back and forth. I don't trip because I know who that is. And it's this homeless guy. And he's been sleeping around here forever, but he's super respectful. He folds up his stuff. One time I came out there and I caught him and I saw him and I was like, oh, hey man, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. He's like, if you don't want me here, I'll go away. And I said, well, hold on. I go, what, are you just sleeping here or what are you doing? And he was like, yeah, it's like the only place I can find that, nobody bothers me and stuff. I said, okay, look, just don't piss around here. Don't defecate, pick up your stuff, be clean. I will, sir, I'll respect it. I said, the minute you stop, keeping it cool, I go, then we're going to have a problem. But other than that, do your thing. Do you need anything? I got him some water, and yeah, he's totally cool. He cleans up now. He's cool. So like,
Part
I
of the
let him
team.
do his thing.
Yeah.
The neighbors aren't so keen on him, but I've told him like he's harmless, and he's really he's really nice, and he's older, and what's he going to do?
Right.
You can't yell at him, go get a job or anything. He's like a bit older and stuff, so it's like leave him alone.
Sorry. So you were saying, kind of like your parents had different things they were into.
Yeah.
So how was that for you, like as a kid? Were you kind of
I looked for probably a tribe, and that tribe was like skate, because also I was a little odd for my jock NorCal neighborhood and school. Like everybody was a little, I don't know, just more probably like something like normal is the word.
Did you feel like an outcast in school?
Yeah. Like I was definitely like kind of a weirdo, and I immediately I didn't know this guy up the street, this older dude who was a hairdresser. I didn't know he was gay, but he was super punk rock, and he was my friend. And so I didn't know what gay was. Mm-hmm. He was never like he didn't press anything on me. He just liked me. Like he liked me. I was a skater, and he would just like, let me do your hair. So like, I'm like, okay, he'd do my mom's hair, and he'd make me look all, he'd shave it, punk rock. And, but what I learned, and I didn't know what that was because I was so young, but he was super cool. Like, and people would, you'd be like faggot and all this kind of stuff to him around Northern California back in the day. And he had steel toe boots, and he would just run after their car and like just kick the door in. And it was like, kind of
you can
on the show.
Please. Yeah.
Fuck you and all that kind of stuff. And like, he would just step to any kind of like, rednecky type dudes, like trying to be disrespectful. And I used to just be like, wow, he was just scary with a mohawk and earrings, and and everybody's of course tripping out. Why do you hang out with that guy? He's a fucking weirdo, faggot, like all this kind of stuff. And I'd be like, he's cool, but he had all the weird music. He knew about. He had all the magazines from London fashion, and so like he really was like to me like he was. Everybody else was on the same matrix, and he was the freak. But I liked the freak.
Yeah. What age is this around?
I was only like probably 12, 13, 14, like this. And
like in your early teens.
And he was like 17 or 18 or 19 or whatever. And he lived with his mom, and then he went to beauty school, and then then he moved away or something. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
Did you stay in NorCal this whole time, or did you eventually end up leaving?
Yeah, left at as soon as I could, because the skate scene was in San Francisco, and at the Embarcadero was popping off with like all the pros, Tommy Guerrero. You'd see Mark Gonzalez, Christian Hosoi, all my heroes from Thrasher magazine. Mm-hmm. It would tell you about all the skate spots, and that's all you wanted to do. If it was every weekend, let's get to the city and skate. And then it became like, okay, well, I guess I can get out of school a little early here. And I had a job, and I got this opportunity to like get it, to work for somebody in San Fran. And they were like, yeah, but can you do it? And I was like, yeah. And I lived in a weird little loft, like in the middle of the ghetto, and like it was crazy. And but I didn't care. I loved it. Like.
Did you think was the plan to be a professional skater, or
I didn't know what I wanted to do.
You just enjoyed it?
I just wanted something big. I just wanted to live. I just wanted to kind of. I never felt comfortable. I always felt in my small town that there was like this big world out there, and I didn't want to roach and turn into nothing, or just end up like all these other people around me that didn't really they seemed like they just wanted to get intoxicated really, and kind of like accept like this hand that was dealt to them kind of vibe, and well, I'm crazy, rah, rah, rah. Oh, that's too much. It's like, how old are you, bro? Like, what do you mean? You're done. You're 30.
What made you what made you not want to accept it? I mean, was it something that you had seen? Was it your parents' influence? Was it, a certain person, or was it just your vision of, there's got to be more than just this shit?
Yeah, it was just there's this, because there was no internet, so you couldn't look to that. I think it was being turned on to those, like the music scene that I was introduced to, and realized, like, trying and listening to, like, these odd bands, and then go into a show on a weekend in San Francisco and seeing this whole other culture and all these people that were all pierced out, or going to like a something like a breakdancing show or something like that, and seeing like all these people. And I was young, and I was like, who are all these people? And they're so.
But what about them like appealed to you? Was it the fact that they seemed happy doing what they were doing, and that they were like kind of breaking
like their
boundaries?
self-expression, like, it was on point. They were expressing themselves, and it seemed like they had a counterculture attitude, and like, fuck the system, fuck the establishment, forget all this normal shit. It's like, let's go, let's.
And to you, that was like the epitome of like being happy and successful in life, was like living like that, like kind of like doing kind of what you were doing, like what you wanted to do, and having that creative expression, and not really, I don't know, working a 9 to 5 or being, I don't know, boring.
Just like, I mean, having, a little bit older people that were kind of already way different and hardcore than what you'd been around your whole life, tell you that it's okay to be a freak. I mean, and, like, no, it's cool to, like, it's cool to skate, like, it's cool to, like, shave your head. It's cool to, like, be punk. It's cool to be a white boy living in the ghetto, break dancing. And, like, that's all this stuff was like totally, it was the opposite. Like the normal people would say,
you're wasting your time.
Like, like, are you serious? This is, why are you doing this? Why are you acting like this? Why do you dress like that? Why do you think this is cool? You're really getting yourself into a, bad situation with these people. Yeah. And it was like, all those people ended up ruling the world. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
yeah. Now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
As you started kind of, getting older, kind of getting towards your high school years, did you go to high school or college or anything like that?
Yeah. I barely finished high school. They let me out because they said I could get my credits. And then I built a skateboard ramp in the back of my house, and literally, like, my second night of night school, to get the 2 credits in, I could get them in anything I wanted.
Oh, okay.
They were like, you're all good. You just need 2 credits in anything. You can come back and graduate with the class. Yeah. Second night of night school that I signed up for, I heard Randy Caton was coming over to skate my ramp with Rick Windsor.
How did that happen?
And those guys were and what's funny is those guys never ever made it. Like, they're not like Tony Hawk names or anything.
But like, if you're in the industry,
but as a kid, not even that. Just, they were local skate legends.
Yeah.
And I'm a 17-year-old kid, and you're coming over to my house to skate my ramp.
Yeah.
Like, I am not going to school tonight. Like, this had cachet,
So you barely graduated.
So I barely squeaked by. I mean, I think actually, I don't know how. I think I do have a diploma, but I'm not sure it's legit. I don't know. I think something happened.
I might have printed it out myself.
I don't know. So I'm assuming you never went to college.
No.
Yeah. So what did you decide to do after high school?
Just work.
And what are you working in?
I was in San Francisco, and the guy that hired me, he hired me to, like, just be his photo assistant for his. He had like he shot models, and he had some like talent scouting agency or something, and on the side as well. So, like, everybody knew, like, if you want to get into the business, you go to this guy. He can shoot your pictures, and he can place you with agents and stuff like this. He was like the kind of the man. but he had horrible style. I love him, but like, and he taught me so much, but like he had horrible style. So when I started working for him, it was just like hold the flag, learn to load the film, all this kind of stuff. The next thing you know, I'm like telling him, hey, you should have them wear this and wear that. You want to style them? Yeah. So then I started styling them. So then by the time I kind of like moved away to LA, which is where I made my own card that said I was a photographer.
How old were you at that point?
I don't know, like 4 years after that or so. But by that time, I mean, I was doing everything, right? Except for clicking the button, which, there's a lot of that going on still.
And was it something that you kind of just fell into, or like did you see yourself being like in that space for a long time?
No, he had shot this guy in Sacramento when I worked at a grocery store. That was my first job. I was a bag boy. When I was 16, he shot this guy, and the stud dude at the grocery store, this guy Gary, who was always like, "Hey guys, break room," telling the stories about all the, this weekend was amazing. Man, you should see this one chick, bro. He was like that guy, literally that guy.
We all know
always
that guy.
Bragging. Dude, you guys have no idea, that kind of guy. Anyway, and he was getting shot by this guy, and he had come to Sacramento. I don't know if I forget. He had some business. He was scouting some people or something like this. Anyway, he's at the grocery store, and he had stopped by to give Gary some pictures or something like this. And he saw me, and he was like, "Oh, hey, like, what's your friend's name?" And I told him, and he's like, I'm sure he was just trying to make money, but he was like, "Oh, have you ever, thought about, modeling or acting?" And I was like, "Oh, no." And I'm like, "No, what?" Gary's like all salty looking at me, like, why are you asking him? I'm supposed to be the only one around here with game, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I said, yeah. So anyway, I ended up following up with it and going there, taking a trip to San Francisco, got shot by the dude, got these nice pictures. And then he's like, well, I didn't realize how short you were, And I said, yeah. And he's like, well, what about commercials? And so, And so I ended up meeting an agent, and he hooked me up. But anyway, in the interim of him trying to help me, he said, "Do you come to the city a lot?" I said, "Yeah." And he had just got, he just had an assistant leave or something like that. I said, "I'm going to need to find a job if I was ever moving here." And he's like, "Hey, if you come here, you can, I'll let you be my assistant." And he told me he'd pay, it was some kind of like decent pay compared to like being a bag boy. Plus I get to live in the city, all the shit. And I was like, let's go, So everybody thought I was absolutely nuts to quit my job, bail my house and everything, and just get to the city. But to me, it was like a chance to leave the nest and really penetrate the real world, and I'm going to do my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so throughout this time, like, you're doing this thing, and do you have any idea like what path you're going down as far as like what you wanted to do eventually? Or was it kind of like you were just riding the wave and you came to LA, like what was the plan? Like what was the vision?
The first vision for LA, what happened was when I got those commercials and all that kind of stuff, they started telling me that I should start looking at, the theater. And so that's where I went to a pretty nice acting school in San Francisco. And that's where I learned about like, Steve McQueen and James Dean, all that kind of stuff. And I started, wow, these guys are, Brando. Wow. And like I started looking into all that. And so I went down that road to, like acting stuff, because like I got my SAG card through doing the commercials. First job was like a skate job for Reebok for the Olympics. Second job was like a Hidden Valley Ranch dressing. I bit a carrot and like said, anyway, I'm like making money for one day of work. And I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So if I can get serious about this. So then I came to LA and I thought, well, I'm going to support myself.
How old are you at this time?
I'm just like, this is like, I must have been 20 something, and I come to LA, new big city. My ex stepbrother was living down here, going to law school. And he had just moved down here, and he was like, it's so rad down here and the whole thing. And come down and, I'll let you stay with me for a minute, but then you're gonna have to get settled on your own. I got a small place, and it was just, just a free for all kind of thing. And
you're like, LA's a place to be if I want to be in commercials and do the whole Hollywood thing.
Like, if you really want to like take this to the next level. Yeah. And then I came down here and I was doing photography. I had a kind of a cool little portfolio of just people that I had shot. And I just went around to agencies and I just hey, if you need anybody test shots or whatever, I'll do 2 rolls for, back then it was like $150 for 2 rolls or 3 rolls for 200, whatever. Includes processing. You keep the negatives.
Yeah.
And then I would just, sometimes they'd call me and I'd be like, yeah, and I'd get a shoot and I'd go shoot them. And so I started getting a nice little portfolio and kind of making the rounds and shooting people. I was able to support myself between that and getting a few, I did like 50, I'd say I did at least minimum 50 national commercials in my time.
Wow.
As a spokesperson.
And it was just kind of like you wanted to just be creative and do your thing.
Yeah,
and you just figured out a way to make, like you just hustled your way to make money.
I just never really wanted a real job.
Yeah.
But I mean, the only other time I took a kind of like a real job was, for two short stints. One was a waiter on 3rd Street near my house.
Are you really trying to make it in Hollywood if you're not a waiter? Like,
right.
That's like the way to go. Yeah.
Right. It's flexible hours.
Yeah, exactly.
And then my friend was opening, this guy that I ended up meeting was opening a restaurant, and he was like, "Do you want to be the bartender?" But that ended quickly.
For my own selfish purposes, I'm curious. When we say short stints, what are we talking about?
Short stints?
Is it 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years?
Where?
Well, you were saying you had short stints in 2 different places. What
like the being
is
a waiter?
Your definition of a short stint?
Oh yeah. Short stints was they would. Yeah, I would say maybe the waiter job. I might have lasted 5 or 6 months, and then the bartending job I lasted about 4 months until I punched him, and then I booked a movie.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like literally?
Yeah. Sucks. He was my homie too. No, but there was this cute girl that was flirting with me, and she would always come in, and she was like super cute, and I was only dating somebody back then, somebody relatively new at the time. This girl kept coming in.
Yeah.
I wasn't in like this huge committed relationship or anything.
Plus, you're a stud. You're in commercials. Come on.
And then I'm sitting there. I'm the bartender, and I'm like, she's flirting, coming in, talking. And she asked me if I could walk her to her car. And I said, yeah, it's all good. So my homie's the manager. I said, hey, bro. I said, I'm going to walk her to the car real quick, and then I'll be right back. And he goes, you can't do that. And I said, it's right around. You're right around the corner, right? Yeah. And then walk her. And then he says no. And he says, you got to get back, over there in case somebody comes in. I said, it's slow. No one's around. I'll be right back. No, bro, seriously, take this job serious. Go over there. And I'm like, dude. And I said, all right, then you walk her to the car, right? And he's like, fine. And so he walks her to the car. I get a text or a call, whatever it was back then. And she says, oh, you're not so cute after all. Your friend gave it away. Says you're already dating somebody. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Right?
Yeah.
What is this guy doing? Like, are you serious?
What a piece of shit.
So he comes back in,
And you just punched him.
No, and I just, and I just gave him a gut shot, and I just go boom in the stomach. I grabbed him by the throat, and I just put him up against the wall, and I just said, hey, don't you ever do that shit again. You know what I mean? Like, bro, what the fuck are you, what'd I do? I said, man, I said, you know, that's, I go, that is ruthless, bro. That is so, girl wants me to walk her to a car, and then you tell me no, and then you go walk her and then say, I got a girlfriend and make me sound like a scumbag, and then you try to get her number? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Anyway,
So that was that. That was
Luckily,
it.
the statute of limitations has now passed,
Yes.
so he can't do anything. So
he's my homie still. He knows it was wrong.
I love it.
So that was Go ahead.
So what happens after all of this? I mean, you're obviously on this journey of really kind of hustle and figuring out what you're doing and being an actor and working these short jobs. And, is there something bigger you want to do? Do you want to eventually own your own company? Did you want to become a big time actor? What was the goal in that moment in time?
Yeah. Well, I talk about it. I've been talking about it a little bit lately. It's been coming up. And what happened was, you guys, you can't see this on the screen out there, but in your ears.
Yeah.
But check this out. So this is a picture right here of me when I got hired to play James Dean.
That's you? I was going to say it's James Dean.
And the story of his life. That's me
That's you?
as a young buck. Yeah.
Wow.
And so here I am in the globe here's the year. You see here 1991. Right, and here's the globe.
A year before Pat and I were born, by the way.
Look at that. 2,000 hopefuls later, he's the splitting image. Newcomer Rob Keith stars in James Dean, the legend. They finally found the new James Dean, right? And there I am, squinting, smoking a ciggy.
Wow.
That whole thing, right? So this was like a huge thing for me.
It was a movie? Or
This was a huge movie.
Yeah.
It's what ended up making James Franco. Really, because it was the same people that kind of resurrected it after mine fell apart from like a weird murder and all this stuff with like this bad producer and I was on hold forever and I went back to his farm and I drove the tractor and shot baskets through his hoop, rode his motor, like did all this like I'm a ghost. I did all this thing. I had a huge contract. I mean, I was gonna, I was like
method.
I thought I was, I'm gonna, I've made it.
Like you're becoming an A-list actor.
Like I came to LA, and this is what happened.
Like I'm gonna be like Brando.
This is like, I'm the next guy, I guess. This is wow. Get prepared for stardom. Bleach your hair and get ready for stardom. Anyway, so I waited around for that for a long time to happen, and when it fell apart, it kind of like. It devastated me. Even, I'd go to like some kind of audition or something, and they'd be like, "Oh, weren't you that guy that was gonna do that one thing?" It was like it was a real weird. It's almost like there was also like a dark cloud that happened. Like I think around me for that, like meaning, I was associated with that ugly, weird project that fell apart, and it was just like, and I was off the market for so long. It was like, oh, I don't know.
Does that actually happen? Like, do they like write you off in Hollywood when like, it's like not wasn't your fault?
You know what? It could have been my perception too. I don't know. I was just so
like it was.
I was just so. My ego, my dreams, my whole trajectory about what I identified with myself and who I was going to become and what it was going to be like, life was going to be like. It just got flipped, your family, your friends, everybody freaking out that you're going to be the next James Dean.
Yeah.
Walking around with blonde hair and people going, oh my God, and like treating you already like I was signing autographs already some places. It was crazy. Like, I was like, wow, And so this all goes down, right? Meanwhile, I'm still an artist underneath it all. So I still got the photography stuff. I'm still painting.
Did you not have like an agency like booking you deals at that time? It was just you? Like you were
I had an agent and stuff.
But
like
you weren't getting any opportunities like that. You were like at least I would like mend it a little bit.
Let me tell you something. I probably just had weird energy because it was weird. You go from something so big and it crumbles, and you're walking on, the
top of the world to like,
and then you go, then you switch, and then it immediately switches to some weird movie of the week with like a few lines, and you got a room full of 100 guys, and you're like fighting, just for, and it's like, and then you're wearing the PTSD from what you just went through, and you're just trying anything like get a job, and it's like I think it was just all very weird energy, and I was in the middle of it. I had no idea who I was anymore, how I felt. I didn't know, because it was, everything before that was all aligned.
Right.
The stars seemed aligned, and then it's like no. Anyway,
so what did you take away from that? Like, what did you like now looking back?
Everything.
Like, yeah,
Everything.
That was that kind of like the turning point.
That is when I actually started to learn about life, and I went on. That's where I kind of like the real journey began for me.
Perfect. So let's talk about that. Now that we've put all the past behind and we're starting from the beginning, what was it that you learned from life and you were like, this is the starting point, this is what I'm going to do? What was that like in your head? And what did you end up doing?
Well, what I immediately, well, no, it wasn't immediate. It was a slow drip. It was a slow drip into, if you mean to get it to like with HB, and how that happened, that was a slow drip. But what happened was, it just started choking me out slowly. It went from having decent opportunities. Then I slipped into what I called at the time commercial hell, meaning every day was like, you've got, you wouldn't find out till 7:00 at night what your tomorrow was like. And it would be for a, herpes commercial, and then the Wiener Schnitzel, and then an insurance company. And you're like, God, man, you're like, I
was going to be a star.
Yeah, I looked at myself as like a Broadway, serious thespian.
I can imagine at that point you have like an identity crisis. You're like, well, who the fuck am I? Like,
I'm going
it's
crazy.
like I was, supposed to do this,
crazy.
but now.
And anyway, so then in the interim, I had a friend that already had kind of turned his back on Hollywood, and he had been in some Sean Penn movies and had a TV show, and he'd done good, but he just basically said, fuck Hollywood, fuck entertainment. And he was already moving on into the digital space and setting up like a little hub for graphic designers and all this kind of stuff like this. And he's the one that said to me at one day, man, fuck acting, fuck all this shit, man. I think you got style, and I think you have crazy ideas that are way cooler than some of these people I'm starting to work for. And I'm doing work for everyone. I'm doing stuff for Gucci, Donna Karan, Pepsi, MTV, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you should think of something you want to do. And I said, well, let's, a product or something, and then you could stop relying on all these people, 1 million people, to make decisions about your life and not knowing what you're doing each day. Why don't you try, you can still maintain being an artist, but like you could control your own destiny,
So why jewelry?
And that, well, I had collected a lot of jewelry for the photo shoots from estate sales and vintage shops, thrift stores, Indian reservations, flea markets, whatever. I had a pretty interesting collection, and I kind of always wondered how the stuff was made and why it was so valuable and the whole thing. And it wasn't until I started. My first thing was, I'm going to do beanies. Beanies. I was like, yeah, let's make beanies. Anyway, so
I remember the beanies with the visors back in the day were like really.
Oh
in.
man,
those were really in.
Oh yeah, I was gonna go there, and then we'd run around town trying to make a beanie. I don't know. Anyway, one day and this is how the story goes. This is not a news story. Anybody that's ever heard me speak about how things happen, but I was at the art store to pick up some stuff, and I got some clay, and I made the first ring around a dowel rod. And it was based on this logo that my friend and I had made, my friend Jason, and we made it, and I I just did it twice. This is the first ring right here. This was the logo twice. And I kind of did it with clay loosely around like a dowel rod that I found and just messing around. And then I started wondering how to cast it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what led me to.
And the idea was just like, you're just going to design them all yourself. And it
no,
was like,
just
whatever.
that one, that would be one. I just wanted to make, this would be cool to make. It was singular thought.
Yeah.
This would be cool to make. I made that one ring, or I went down and tried to get that ring made. And she said, you got to do it out of wax, not clay. And I said, what? And so she gave me a piece of wax. I said, okay, let me try. And this and this. And I took it back to her. I said, I can't get it to look like this. And she goes, you want me to help you? And I said, yeah. And she said, I'm a professional, so I can do it. How much? $30. I'm like, why didn't you just say that in the beginning?
Yeah.
She said, you said you wanted to learn. So I'm like, oh, okay, respect. Okay, so here. So I gave it to her. She made it look perfect.
Yeah.
She said, now how do you want that? You want silver or gold? I said, cast it in gold. So she cast it in gold. Here it is.
That's the
literally
one?
This is it, first one. And literally, a few days later after I picked it up, I go to Starbucks, and this is how the story goes. I'm at This is where the destinies, where the universal frequencies,
like the stars actually align. Yeah,
yeah, the metaphysics come in
at Starbucks.
At Starbucks.
This is not a plug, by the way, not an ad. Starbucks has not paid us to say this.
I hate Starbucks.
But magic happens there.
Right. I'm there, and this lady with a Birkin, excuse me. And I thought, I thought she kind of was cute, like hot cougar. I thought she was just kind of like hitting on a player. And she goes, oh, where'd you get that ring? And I was like, oh, actually, I made it. She goes, wow, I thought it was vintage. I said, yeah. She goes, that is really a cool ring. Can you make me one? And I said, well, probably. She goes, how much would you charge for something like that? Now, I had just looked at like Cartier and other brands at that level, Tiffany and that kind of Dior. I mean,
10,000, 5,000.
Yeah, Chopard. And I was looking at their prices, right?
Yeah.
So I just go, my ring. In my mind, I'm thinking, my ring's better than their shit. $3,000 at the time. And gold was only like 300 an ounce or something back then. And she's like, great. And I was like, yeah. She was like, yeah, how do we do this? And I just freestyled and just saw straws sitting behind her. I grabbed a straw, tore off the paper, put it around her finger, licked it, snapped it off, put her number on the straw, because that's her finger size. And I said, I'll call you, and I'll let you know when it's done. And she's like, great. And then we got our drinks and have a good day. So I'd like to know who this lady is, because she has no idea.
You still don't know her?
I don't know who she is.
So how did you get her the ring?
Well, listen, I'm saying after the transaction.
Got it.
So I was too excited that this happened. To remember.
And you said it was a lady with a Birkin bag.
Yeah.
At the time, did you recognize that it was a Birkin?
I think I did.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, I always keep asking what year it was, just to give us like a timeline and some perspective. What year was this around?
This had to be somewhere around. I mean, I say the brand was established in 2005.
Okay.
So
officially launched the business.
Yeah. So it's a little kind of.
It's around there, 2004.
It's weird. It's somewhere in there.
Got it.
Anyway.
Perfect.
Yeah. So somewhere in there, I make this ring for her. I call her up. I'm thinking, this ain't gonna happen. But she answers and says, "Yeah, honey, let's meet at Starbucks." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I go down there. I'm like, "Here, no good packaging." I just pull it out of her thing, and I just go, "Here you go." Right, and I hand her ring, and she puts it on. I love it. Thank you so much. Reaches in her bag, hands me an envelope of cash. Now, that envelope of cash at that time, that money, that would have taken me. It was, probably what, like 20, over 2,000 in profit or whatever it was. I mean, all the tooling and the gold and all that kind of stuff.
And it was cash.
And it was cash.
Yeah. That
would have taken, I don't know how, like what, 4 or 5 photo shoots to earn that, multiple auditions, callbacks, all that kind of stuff, all around town, shoot the job, hope that it airs, then wait for the check. taxes, agent, manager, whatever it is. Next thing you know, like that it would have been a long road to get that money.
Yeah.
And
right then and there, I'm sure you like learn like business, like the margins. Like,
right.
this is
and
what
so
it's all
I
about.
go home that night. And that's my. It was the early days of me and my wife living in Hollywood on Martell. And
You were married yet at the time or no?
let me think. I think she was pregnant, and we might have been married or thinking about it. And I remember coming home and going, look what I made today. Where'd you get that? And I was like, that lady came through, told her the story. Oh my God, that's so fantastic. I was like, I can't believe it. And she's like, oh my God. And then she had something to do. She goes away. And so now I'm left alone and I'm all excited. And I had that Sylvester Stallone in Rocky moment thing where he just pumps out the script real quick.
Yeah.
Same thing happened to me where my mind exploded. I had the light, maybe I was smoking something good or something. I don't know what happened.
You had a vision.
I really did.
Some
and that
dream.
I had an insane and intense, very clear vision of what I wanted to make, what I wanted to do, what I was destined to be, all this stuff, all from this little transaction that happened. It shifted everything. All of a sudden, I just didn't care about anything else. And I just saw all these shapes and I saw all this, and this wasn't even acid or mushrooms or anything.
Yeah.
This was just like real. And,
But did you have any idea like about the jewelry business, about building a brand, about building a business? You were just like,
nothing.
If there's someone interested in my shit and one thing that I created.
I went from knowing absolutely nothing to knowing probably more than anybody in about 1 year. I mean, I like a laser beam.
Okay.
I wanted to know, it's like that, the old saying about like when the kid's complaining about school and school sucks. But like, if you really want to learn something, it wouldn't suck.
Like put that kid in a class that kid is interested in.
Right.
Like they'll be the best in the class. Yeah.
Right. I wanted to understand fine jewelry. I wanted to understand luxury brands. I wanted to understand the psychology behind them, the symbolic meaning in our culture, how's it all function? Why do they exist? How did this happen? I just tore the whole thing apart and then had my own ideas about.
And did it have to do with jewelry itself, or was it more like there's a business here? Like there's a clear way for me to make a career doing what I like. What I love is expressing my creativity, and jewelry is the way to do it.
Yeah, I instinctually knew that if I could just make I was just obsessed about how am I going to make these things that I want to make, and then I figured the rest would fall into place. Really.
So is that what happened? Like that first year that you're like saying?
I mean, we grew through the collapse of the economy.
Yeah.
Which is pretty insane.
I started this when everything fell apart, but
2005, literally right before it fell apart.
It all fell apart.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here trying to, everybody's looking at me like I'm insane.
It's interesting. So my dad's actually in the jewelry business. He's been in it for 40 plus years, but he's a manufacturer. So for him, during that time, he saw that because he was working more with like fashion jewelry, like brands, not the luxury. So it's interesting because I feel like what happens when there is a recession or an economic downturn, those that are already in the luxury category stay there. They have enough wealth that it doesn't affect them much. And so they don't change their lifestyle. So it's interesting to see that, it impacted one side of the business for sure, especially with manufacturing where it all went to China and now I think it's slowly come back. But the luxury space wasn't really affected much. What did you learn during that time working with and dealing with folks that were more so in that luxury class as opposed to just the everyday consumer?
Well, what I learned was exactly at the time I didn't know what you just said. I didn't know that. I didn't know both sides of that, like
Right.
how you just explained that. But what I did learn in that time was I watched luxury companies. Now that I was studying them, I watched them, being, slightly bulletproof. I mean, not completely,
Right.
but I watched that, and I was turned on by that. I did think that was a really interesting thing. And then later on in life, I don't know when it was, but I think it was near 9/11.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what is it? Are we getting close to 9/11?
Well, we're recording this on 9/10, so by the time it's
Wow.
released, it'll be past 9/11.
Crazy. Yeah. So the
2001.
Tom Ford had said something to the effect of, I'm mashing his words, but he said when the Twin Towers were hit, right? One of their stores in Manhattan received 45 calls or whatever it was that day about the new peasant dress or blouse or whatever that they were selling
That day.
And I thought, that's pretty fucking insane.
Yeah.
Right? That's insane.
Yeah.
Buildings and the lives and chaos.
Like the
terrorism,
entire world.
All this stuff. The world is turning upside down. And there's people out there actually going, do you have that peasant dress or blouse? And I'm like, wow. People give zero shits about anything other than luxury and fashion. Some people, not everybody. Everybody's different. But a lot of people are out there that are that deep into it to where the world could be burning, and it's like, anyway. I need some dope glasses.
Yeah. But what was your strategy to launching this thing? Like, you have all these big brands that are charging all this money for jewelry, and people are like have this affinity towards those brands and brand names. Like, it sounds like it was kind of like an ignorance is bliss thing, where like you weren't even in the industry to even know about that, and you were just like, I'm just gonna fucking do this because people want to pay me for what I'm creating. But did you have a strategy at all? Like, was it like I'm gonna undercut the competition, or like price wise, or I'm gonna charge even more than them, like to build a brand? Like, how did you go about that whole thing?
No, I just thought that probably back then, my thinking was, if I make these amazing pieces of gold and diamond art and I sell it to the type of people that can obviously afford it, I can earn enough money to not only survive, but it'll help me make the other pieces that I have in my mind. The other, because
that would subsidize
so I could sell that, I can make enough money, that'll help with rent or whatever, but then I can take a little bit of money and now I can start building that other one, because I became obsessed with making a collection. Right? So, it's like if an artist had unlimited canvases all of a sudden and could just paint, or
like a few paintings would like pay for the artist doing like a bunch of paintings that they wanted to,
like if I could just sell 3 of these stupid paintings, I could paint 100 of them.
Yeah.
So that became the thinking.
And clearly it's a mega successful brand, but like at what point did it start feeling like the ball's rolling and it's really going well? And I mean, was it like 1 or 2 purchases that you distinctly remember that was like, this kind of validated that there's something here? Or
it was no, I know exactly when, and I have a little funny story. I wish Keth was here because he was with me when it happened. Kether Parker,
is your
which
partner.
is my brand director,
Who's now in New York?
Yeah, my homie. Anyway, he's Yeah, he was there with me. So what happened was is we got a call. This girl who worked with the Olsen sisters knew us somehow, or whatever, connected somehow, had some of my jewelry or bought some or whatever. And then the girls, the Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen, liked the stuff, and they said that stuff's cool. Can you we want to see it. Tell them, to come to New York and stay at the Mercer or something. So we went out there. We're like, oh my God, how much is that place going to be? We looked up online. It's like $650 a night. Back then, we're like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? But we did it, like everything. I mean, I've leveraged my house, maxed out credit cards. I've risked everything, to make this thing happen. So there was nothing new, but here comes a new crazy, cross-country risk, fashion week, the whole thing. So we go over there, we post up, we're sitting around just, trying to wait for a call, but they had told us that a lot of people were coming through their showroom and that they would, if they mentioned they would tell us where we are. And so a few stores came by, they were like, this is cool, this store and that store. But it was kind of slow. And we were just sitting there, and I'm like, what are we doing? We're just racking up money. And then, boom. Hey, guys, Barney's New York wants to see your collection. And then we were like, wow. Yeah. They came over. That was the game changer because, they walked in. They're like, we love it. We want it for all our stores. Gave us great terms. Catherine and I are kicking ourselves. The next day, they had some other person come and pick all the different styles and this and that. And then.
But can you are you able to pinpoint why that was? I'm sure there's a lot of people making jewelry at the time. What about it? Was it just they like the aesthetic, they like the look? Was it more than that? Do you know, or it just happened?
No, I mean, I had maybe. Well, first of all, there's not a lot of jewelry brands that were
in that price point.
But not just that weren't that cohesive, and it didn't. It's like
it didn't look like a collection. It was just kind of a bunch of different pieces.
Well, no, most people have birds and butterflies and snake rings and
it's like
all this
stuff.
Yeah, it's like all this stuff. And my stuff was all really chunky and substantial, and it all kind of centered on the tri-link design motif. So it was like links, and they stacked on each other.
Is there any meaning to that?
No, I mean it's literally the tri-link.
No, I meant to the tri-link.
Well, it's just our mark,
That's it.
symbolizing strength, opulence, and what our motto is. What's the other word we use in there? God, it's been so long since I wrote it. But anyway, strength, something, and continued opulence. But anyway, it's our mark, and it's just duplicated. And it if you look here, I had a small one. This is a big one. Then you go bigger, and then if you amplify the biggest link here, it becomes that it's one.
Right.
And it just, and the way that I did it. And it's all laid out with diamonds and no diamonds, and then I did it with each color gold, rose, yellow, and gold, and white gold, and then I had a silver option. So I had, a low price point, and then it had scaled, and they all looked really cool next to each other, and they liked the branding, and I had a few cool people. I think Snoop had some stuff, and Nicolette Sheridan from the Desperate Housewives, which was hot at the time, and a couple other people.
I mean, I've seen even recently, I saw on you guys' Instagram, Taylor Swift wore it for a cover of a magazine, or Brad Pitt. How does that happen? Is it just any other phenomenon where once these celebrities start wearing it, they just tell their friends about it and they buy it, or was there something else that you guys did, or some sort of marketing campaign or strategy or something that it got to that point?
I would say most of it is word of mouth, and obviously, one kind of the one thing leads to another, and it just keeps getting a little bit more expansive as when Barney's happened. Now that opens it up. Once you anchor yourself in Barney's, now it's
Great
legit.
marketing tool.
Yeah, so now it's legit.
Yeah.
Right.
And especially back then. I mean, not now. Poor place is bankrupt. But anyway.
Yeah. But that was like, if you're in Barney's, you're legitimate, and that's validation that this is a good brand and you should
Right.
buy it.
Right. And then, you know, a lot of people starting to see it. Now they get excited. And then the other boutiques, now international stores come in, looking at what's in all these different places. And, you know, and then it just starts, you know, feeding itself and getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Why the name? Why the name Hoorsenbuh?
Oh, because we wanted to pay homage to our ancestors and make up this amazing, you know, historical look, basically, at, you know, at the whole thing we were tripping on at the time, which was like, you know, they're bearers of knowledge and you know, what was on this ship, and, you know,
When you say
it's not like I did 23andMe or anything like that, but it was.
You said
like,
your personal ancestors, or like
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
yeah.
Dad, you know, yeah, well, you know, I heard there was a Keith that was a, you know, we're seamen, son. You know, like, you know, Dad, what are we? You know, I told you, you're a Heinz 57, son. You know, you're a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway, so yeah, so I was just kind of riffing on you know, these tales, these family tales, and mixing it with like what I knew would be also an interesting way to kind of show a little bit of old world, or like, I didn't want it to be like something. I kind of wanted to create like a brand that seemed like it had been around for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to have that vibe to it. Like, I didn't want it to look all new school.
What was the feedback, and what is the feedback that you receive from people that purchase your products?
They love it.
But what about it do they love?
I think they like. First of all, I think they like how substantial it is. You know, our stuff's pretty heavy. I mean, have you felt any of it?
Not yet.
Have you feel how heavy like a ring is here? You know.
Yeah.
It feels heavy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it feels like it's like real.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like something you're gonna buy in a like department store or something.
So, you know.
It's not your everyday. I mean, it could be your everyday piece, but it's not like something you could just go into like a Macy's, find and buy and leave.
It's been 14 years, right? Like since you launched it. Like over that course of time, like what's been like the, I don't know, biggest highlight of the business or the brand? Like what's something that you, besides Mr. and Mrs. Obama, buying the product, like has there been another moment where you're like, this is why I'm proud to do this or continue to do this?
I think you know, I think I could illustrate a lot of hype moments that came along the way, and I could say that. But I would say now, in this moment of just you asking me that question, the first thing that comes to mind as the most amazing part of this journey is the part where you realize that manifesting your own reality is not just a theory, number one. Yeah. And you also realize that, you know, you can dream up something, and you can, you know, have a vision of something, and you can really get on some kind of laser beam, and you can really do it. Mm-hmm. You can really accomplish so much if you get your mind right. And how that ends up creating this world that you live in, you know, when you sit and are able to reflect or meditate on life.
Yeah.
I would say the most amazing thing for me would be when I sit in a content state, like in my backyard, which I've made pretty sweet. I've made it into
It's anything like your office, I'm sure. Well,
yeah, I made it into a wellness center, man. I got the 33-degree ice bath. I've got the infrared, the eucalyptus steam room, the Japanese scrubbing station.
Next time, I wish we.
I don't know why you guys didn't do this.
I mean,
no one said anything about it.
I think part 2 might have to be there. Yeah.
And mind you, it's all low key. It's not like Caesar's Palace, all marble. Like it's legit. You guys would love it. But anyway, the point is like I spend a lot of time in that space in my backyard. That's why I ended up over time making it into this, is because I spend a lot of time in there, contemplating, life and being grateful and, putting a lot of energy into the phenomena that is spinning around on.
Do you
us.
like at this point after 14 years and where the brand has come, like, do you feel content with not just the brand, but like where you've come with your life, or is there more that you want to accomplish? And are there more things that you're like, I don't know, just like really focused on trying to do?
No, I mean, if anything, I've become a little bit more ambitious, maybe, and not necessarily in a money way, but I've become more ambitious. Like I learned that I can create, right? Like I said, I've learned
clearly,
that I can manifest. I've learned that I can have a dream and a vision, and apply these principles that I've adopted and make them work for me, and make something cool out of it, right? Yeah. Because I'm sitting in it, I'm looking around, and I'm like, yep, it's real, right? We look at the check from the Obamas, we're like, oh yeah, it's real.
It's real.
Like all these things, this is not a joke. This is, and a lot of people think this is like really important or a big deal, and hey, maybe it is. Maybe it's just maybe it's nothing. I mean, like my dad says, here it's how's your empire of dirt, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, let's stay humble but it's real. And so if anything, I've become a little bit more, I dare myself to take on new challenges, like I'm doing with this other business right now, which is completely different from this. Okay. And it's just, I've learned so much along the road that I just think that I can apply, just by me being involved and applying what I know to this new venture. And I mean, I've navigated so much that I think,
you can do it.
I think I can do it.
Are you able to share what that venture is, or is it still under wraps?
Cool. Yeah, no, it's I'm doing this thing called shaman ramen.
Okay. Oh,
and it's
ramen.
the first. Yeah, it's the first
favorite meal.
Favorite. No, I actually, for the record, I haven't had normal ramen before, like good ramen.
No,
so it's always been like
the world's first adaptogenic superfood instant ramen.
Oh, so it's something that you want to sell in stores? Like it's not like a restaurant, or is it?
No, not a restaurant.
It's a product.
Oh yeah, you'll be on a plane and everybody will be coughing all over you, and they'll be like, "Sir, do you want this GMO infested
cup of noodles,
pulverized piece of shit?" And you'll be like, "No thanks, hot water, please." And you'll hand them your cup of shaman ramen, and you will have a lit, super nutritious, amazing meal with immune boosting qualities.
Is this like on sale now?
No, not yet.
It's in the works.
No, it's almost to market. Like, you'll see it coming up soon.
End of this year or early next year?
I hope so. God, we've been beating this thing to death, So, it's time. It's time. And
when we walked in here, you were jamming with some buddies. I don't know if they're like your folks who work here.
Oh yeah, they work here.
Okay, you're just like, is that? I mean, what else besides like? I mean, when you're not working or working here or on the other business, like, is that you just chilling, playing?
Yeah.
playing drums and just hanging out?
Yeah, I do that. When winter comes, I like to go snowboarding.
I just got into snowboarding like a few years ago, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
I'm into the whole surf scene as well. Yeah. I still try. My son skates. He's getting really good. I try to skate every once in a while with him. If anything, just go cruise around. I box. What else do I do? Like most of the time, I'm trying to walk to work. It's like a nice 25-minute walk.
No, not bad.
Instead of drive.
Yeah.
I'll try to walk. I do all this crazy wizard shit in my backyard, like with the balance ball and like push-ups and these weird hanging things, and I do all this stuff. Pilates. I do all these. I'm mostly into like wellness and all that kind of stuff, and eating kind of pure and keep trying to like. Now I'm on like no nightshades and like Tom Brady.
He's a big Brady
greatest
fan.
athlete of all time,
right? Yeah, man.
Well, Robert, this has been an awesome conversation, man. Thanks so much for doing this, and it was awesome learning about your story and how far Hoorsenbuhs
You got it.
has come.
Hoorsenbuh
has come. I mean, it's going to take me a little time, but I love the name. This has been awesome, man. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you, guys.